Someone had to do it eventually. Today's video is about Mario Party Advance. This one's my least favorite Mario Party of all time, because it's strictly single player, and as I've said before, playing with others is mostly what makes Mario Party fun. Also, the board, not boards, board, and game modes are lackluster. However, despite all this bad stuff, Mario Party Advance does have some really fun minigames, so I thought it couldn't hurt to talk about them. Today, I'm counting down my top 10 favorite Mario Party Advance minigames. My opinion, speaking for myself only, concept, blah blah blah. Also, I will not be counting any gadgets, since they're too simplistic, and boring not to mention. This intro's gone on long enough, so let's party. Kicking off this list is Pesticide. The player is surrounded by 4 flowers, which will need 2 things: water and pesticide, hence the name. Each flower will give a sign to let the player know exactly which one they want, and the player must face that flower and, depending on said sign, press A to spray water or B to spray pesticide. Should the player fail to give a flower the right spray in time, the minigame will end. This one forces you to pay attention, since any mistake will be your last, especially when a lot of time has passed, since the minigame becomes harder. I like that about it also. Pesticide pushes aside pests that want 10th place. 9th place is Duel, don't get used to it, Volleybomb. Both players must hit a bomb back and forth to each other with hammers. Failing to hit the bomb back results in the other player getting a point, and the first player to score 3 points wins the minigame. Over time, the bomb will turn red and eventually explode, meaning that if it does so on your side, your opponent will get the point, regardless of whether you hit it back or not. This one is just fun with a clever concept, and is also a bit thrilling. Sorry, that's all I have to say. Volleybomb is the bomb, enough so to earn 9th place. If only it could earn me a time-killing epilogue too. 8th place is Melon Folly. The player is faced with several platforms above water, each with either a watermelon slice, melon, or barrel. He or she must jump across each platform, avoiding the barrels, collecting every watermelon, and finally grabbing the melon. More specifically, the player must first grab each watermelon, then get the melon last. Getting the melon before all the watermelons, or falling in the water, will end the minigame. This minigame is fun, with a very clever concept, but if I had to name one thing I dislike, it would be how unforgiving it is, since even one mistake will be your last. You will not respawn after falling in the water, and platforms sink after they're jumped on, meaning you can't backtrack. But no matter, the good things make Melon Folly earn 8th place. 'Coming in at 7th place is Dreadmill. The player is running on a long treadmill, hence the name, with several spiked balls on it. He or she must run along, avoiding the spiked balls, in an attempt to reach the finish line as fast as possible. Yes, there's more to it than just that. The treadmill, or should I say, Dreadmill, has 2 lanes, each moving in different directions, thus altering the player's speed, and these lanes will change direction every now and then, making avoiding the spiked balls harder. Man, that is a long sentence. Anyway, this one keeps you on your toes, and is pretty thrilling with an epic concept. That is why Dreadmill will make you dread it should you try taking 7th place from it. Man, sometimes I get so lost in character. 6th place is Peek and Sneak. The player is running through Bowser's castle, which is filled with baby Bowsers. What the player must do is run, as I just said, and if a baby Bowser he or she is approaching is facing his/her path, he or she must stop behind a pillar to avoid being seen, since being seen, along with failing to reach the end in time, ends the minigame. However, if the player does reach the end without being seen, he or she wins the minigame. The player can also give him or herself more time by reaching checkpoints, and yes, the baby Bowsers do give a sign before turning to face the player's path by shaking their bodies. This minigame keeps you on your toes, since you must watch the baby Bowsers very closely if you want to win. That is why Peek and Sneak sneaks into 6th place. 5th place is Amplifried. The player's in a small arena surrounded by 4 amps. These amps will move around and shoot electricity towards one another, which the player must avoid, for if he or she fails to, the minigame will be over. As time goes on, the amps will start shooting more electricity, leaving the player less space to avoid, or more simply, making things much harder for him/her. This minigame is very fun and thrilling, and keeps you on your toes. It also has a very original concept, which I respect in a Mario Party minigame. For all those reasons, Amplifried will fry you up if you try to take 5th place from it. Fourth place is Boo Buy. The player's in a room with several pictures of boos, some white, some blue, and some red, and real boos will appear and start chasing the player. The player must run around and make the boos fly into a picture that matches their color. For each one he or she does so successfully, he or she will score 1 point, and if a boo touches the player, the minigame is over. Like in the Mario platformers, if the player's making eye contact with a boo, it'll stop moving, so if he or she wants to score points, I advise against making eye contact, unless you get cornered and need time to escape. This one is fun and keeps you on your toes, and has a cool concept. Boo Bye will never say bye to fourth place. Third place goes to Floor It. The player is operating an elevator in a building with 4 floors. One for Shy Guys, one for Koopa Troopas, one for Goombas, and one for Boos. Several of these enemies will approach the elevator, and the player must let them inside, then elevate them to the floor that belongs to their species. Doing so successfully adds time to the timer, and once said timer expires, the minigame is over. Also, side note, the elevator has a maximum capacity of 4 occupants, not counting the player. This one is nice and simple with a pretty clever concept. It's also just plain fun. For those reasons, Floor It is on the 3rd floor, which is where 3rd place is. Running up is Flippin Out. The player is doing what looks like uneven bars, and must swing from bar to bar until he or she reaches the finish bar, which will allow him or her to advance to the next area. Doing this successfully adds time to the timer, and when said timer hits 0, the minigame is over. It also ends if the player falls in the lava below the room, which will happen if he or she fails to grab a bar. There are also special types of bars, like ones that dis and reappear, along with ones that move around, making things just a bit harder. This one is just really fun, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. I just like how fast-paced it is, along with the fact that you could jump in any direction you want or need to. All that is why Flippin Out will flip out if you try to take 2nd place from it. Honorable mention party. 15th place is Koopa Krunch. The player is pretty much playing Tetris. He or she must clear blocks out by matching 3 of the same color, and will get points for doing so, while clearing out green shells with red shells. Once the player runs out of room to place blocks or shells, the minigame is over. This one's just fun, that's all. 14th place is Cloud Climb. The player, using clouds and trampolines, must jump upward toward the finish platform, avoiding amps in the process. You don't really win or lose, your goal is to break the record. This one is fun and kinda on toe keeping with a pretty clever concept. 13th place is Forest Jump. The player is on a platform and must avoid logs that'll fall onto it, either by jumping over them or ducking under them. For each one he or she does so successfully, he or she will score points, and if he or she falls off the platform, the minigame is over. This one is somewhat thrilling, but even more on toe keeping. 12th place is On the Spot. Several womps will instruct the player to poke their back at several spots, a certain amount of times in certain order. Doing so successfully will both give the player a point and add time to the timer, while failing to do so will take time away, and once said timer reaches 0, the minigame is over. This one tests your memory, especially after a lot of womps have passed, and as I've said before, I've always loved minigames like that. And lastly, 11th place is Barrel Peril. The player is inside a barrel, walking through a field full of chain chomps, and must reach the finish line in the shortest time possible. Said chain chomps will charge toward the player when he or she gets close, and to avoid getting hit and momentarily stunned, he or she must stop moving to hide inside the barrel. This one is fun and kinda on toe keeping, with a clever, original, and even funny concept. Finally, number 1. I've only got one hint. It's yet another solo minigame. Sorry, that's all. It's none other than Sort Stack. The player is in a library and will see bookshelves with certain colors. In these shelves are several books, with colors that match the ones on the shelves, and some of them will be in the wrong place. The player must put every book on the same colored shelf as fast as possible, for once time runs out, the minigame is over. The player can use both hands to grab and put away books, and completing a shelf both grants points and adds time to the timer. That's pretty much all there is to gameplay, so it's time for me to explain why I like this minigame. I love it because it forces you to pay attention and has a pretty clever concept. In a nutshell, it's just very fun. That's enough to make Sort Stack my number 1 favorite Mario Party Advanced minigame of all time. So there you have it, my top 10 favorite Mario Party Advanced minigames of all time. For more videos like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, please check out my social media. All links are in the description. Thank you much for watching. See you next time. Mikoro Glyscore 472, out.